You will hear a conversation between two friends who haven't seen each other for a long time. First, look at questions 1 to 6. For each of the questions, 3 alternatives are given. Decide which of the alternatives, A, B or C, best fits what you hear, and circle the appropriate letter. You will see that there's an example which has been done for you. On this occasion only, the conversation relating to the example will be played first.
Hello, Sue. Fancy meeting you here. It is Sue Johnson, isn't it?
Oh, hi, Jill. It must be ages since we've seen each other. What a surprise. How are you?
Yes, well, I'm fine. Just got back from 2 years teaching in Hong Kong, actually.
I thought you'd gone into computing or nursing.
No, I ended up being a teacher after all. And how about you?
Oh, fine. Things are going quite well, in fact.
Jill says she was teaching in Hong Kong, so A has been circled. Now we shall begin. You should answer the questions as you listen, because you will not hear the recording a second time. Now listen carefully to the conversation and answer questions 1 to 6.
Hello, Sue. Fancy meeting you here. It is Sue Johnson, isn't it?
Oh, hi, Jill. It must be ages since we've seen each other. What a surprise. How are you?
Yes, well, I'm fine. Just got back from 2 years teaching in Hong Kong, actually.
I thought you'd gone into computing or nursing.
No, I ended up being a teacher after all. And how about you?
Oh, fine. Things are going quite well, in fact.
So, what have you been up to over the last 3 years?
Working, studying, you know, the usual things. Oh, and I got married last year.
Oh, congratulations. Anyone I know?
Yeah, you might remember him from our college days. Do you remember Jerry? Jerry Fox?
Jerry. Was he the one with the dark hair and beard?
No, that was Sam. No, Jerry's got blonde hair and glasses. He's pretty tall. Well, we got married, finally.
Great. And where did the wedding take place? Was it here in London?
No, in the end we decided to get married in Scotland. Jerry's parents lived there, so we were married in a small village church with the mountains in the background.
Oh, fabulous. Have you got any pictures?
Well, funny you should ask. I have actually got a couple here. They're a bit battered because I've been carrying them around in my bag.
Oh, never mind. Let's have a look.
Yeah.
Oh, don't you look wonderful? Who are those people behind you?
Oh, that's my older sister, Clara.
Oh, she looks like you.
You think so? Everyone says that, but we can't see it.
Is she married now?
Yes, and she's got 3 children, a girl and twin boys as well.
Wow, imagine having twins.
Look, why don't we have dinner together and catch up on a few things? Would you like to come over one evening?
That'd be lovely.
What about next Friday evening?
Fine. What time? Shall I come over about 8 o'clock?
Oh, come about 7:30. I'm usually home around 6:30, so that'd give me plenty of time to get dinner ready.
Fine. And one last thing. Where do you live? What's the address?
Good thinking. Here's my card. The address is on the back. We've got a flat in an old house. We live on the 3rd floor of a large old house. The house has been converted into flats. You know, it's a typical London flat. So when you arrive, you'll need to press the bell second from the top.
The bell second from the top. OK.
There's a little intercom arrangement, so I can let you in.
Right. OK. See you on Friday, then.
That's reassuring. So, what do your higher rates cover? Are there any extras?
There are no hidden extras with our company, unlike some which I could mention, but mustn't. Our rates are fully inclusive and give you unlimited mileage, plus insurance against theft and, as I said, collision damage. Also, there are no fees for amending or canceling your booking, so you're free to decide what to do.
What about picking up and dropping off the car?
We have collection points at town centers throughout Britain and at all the airports, which are open during office hours. If you prefer, your car can be delivered to and collected from your accommodation.
Well, that sounds fine. I would like the car to be delivered, but I'll take it to the airport myself when I go back to China. I'd be interested to know about various models I could hire.
We can offer 5 types of cars. If you wanted a hatchback, you could hire a 5-door or a 3-door. Both of them have power steering and airbags. The larger one also has air conditioning. You know, a hatchback is a car with a door at the back that lifts up.
Yes. What are the alternatives?
The first alternative is our 4-door sedan. Or, if there are only 2 of you, you might like our 2-door open-top convertible model. It looks like a sport car. The other 2 alternatives are a bit different. If you want to go on rough country roads or off-road, we have a very good 4-wheel drive vehicle.
We haven't decided how many people will be going yet. Some friends might want to come with us. So, finally, could you tell me the prices?
All our rentals are calculated in 3-day periods. The people carrier costs £180, the sedan £135, the hatchback £63, the small hatchback £47, and the 2-door convertible £111. Excellent value, all of them, especially if several people share.
My thoughts exactly. I'll be in touch with you in the next few days to let you know which model I'll take.
That'll be a pleasure, sir. Please take a copy of our latest brochure with you.
Section 2. You are going to hear part of a lecture on some useful information for your travelling around Britain. Listen to the lecture and complete the notes below by writing no more than 3 words in the space provided.
Good afternoon and welcome to the session on Britain. This afternoon I would like to provide some useful information for you about travelling around Britain. Britain has over 700 tourist information centres. You will find them at major ports, airports, stations, historic landmarks and towns, and holiday centres. So just look out for this sign that says Tourist Information. The staff will be able to answer your holiday queries, as well as provide essential maps, guides and brochures. Tourist information centres at major ports and airports in London and addresses of British Tourist Authority European offices are all listed on the Tourist Information Centres. Now, let's talk about the telephone in Britain. You know, Britain is well supplied with public telephones. Street kiosks take lop coins. In city centres, mainline railway stations, airports and central London underground stations, payphones and card phones are in operation. For the latter, small plastic phone cards are used and these come in 10, 20, 40, 100 and 200 units and can be bought at post offices, news kiosks, station bars and shops where the green and white card phone sign is displayed. When using the different public telephone systems, make sure you read the dialling instructions carefully. Now let's see the banks in Britain. There are 24-hour banks at London's 2 main airports. One is Heathrow and the other is Gatwick. Otherwise, banks are normally open from 9:30 to 3:30, Monday to Friday. Barclays Bank and National Westminster Bank offer a Saturday morning service at some of their branches. National Gyrobanks has 42 bureaux de change located in post offices throughout the country in main tourist areas. Opening hours are 9 to 5:30 weekdays, 9 to 12:30 Saturday mornings. One exception to this is the Trafalgar Square office, whose opening hours are 8 to 8 weekdays and Saturdays, and 10 to 5 on Sundays. The bureau de change services are available to overseas visitors. Visitors can change their money there. You can also change money at bureau de change, large hotels, department stores and travel agents. Be sure to check in advance the rate of exchange and the commission charged, as these vary considerably. Wherever possible, you are advised to use the bank or bureau de change, which conforms to the BTA Code of Conduct. In most cases, this is indicated by display of the code.
That is the end of section 2. You will have half a minute to check your answers.
Now turn to Section 3. Section 3. You will hear a conversation between two students, David and Claire. First, you have some time to look at questions 21 to 24. Now listen carefully and answer questions 21 to 24.
Hi, David. How are you going with your history studies?
Very well. I've actually finished it.
That's great! What era did you write on?
I researched Roman London, something I never thought I'd be interested in.
That sounds interesting.
I wanted to tie it into the work I've been doing on engineering, and I found it fascinating and learned many things along the way.
Such as?
Well, although there were prehistoric settlements throughout the vast area now called London, strangely enough, no evidence has yet been found for any such community at the northern end of London Bridge, where the present city grew up.
The origins of London lie in Roman times, right?
Right. When the Romans invaded Britain in 43 AD, they moved north from the Kentish coast and traversed the Thames in the London region, clashing with the local tribesmen just to the north. It has been suggested that the soldiers crossed the river at Lambeth, but it was further downstream that they built a permanent wooden bridge, just east of the present London Bridge, in more settled times some 7 years later. As a focal point of the Roman road system, it was the bridge which attracted settlers and led to London's inevitable growth.
So, London Bridge has been there for hundreds of years?
Yes, and though the regularity of London's original street grid may indicate that the initial inhabitants were the military, trade and commerce soon followed. The London Thames was deep and still within the tidal zone, an ideal place for the berthing of ships.
What other industry did they have?
Well, as the area was also well drained and low-lying, it was geologically suitable for brick-making. There was soon a flourishing city called Londinium in the area where the monument now stands.
Londinium? That's Latin.
That's what I thought too. But the name itself is Celtic, not Latin, and may originally have referred merely to a previous farmstead on the site.
Before you hear the rest of the conversation, you have some time to look at questions 25 to 32. Now listen and answer questions 25 to 32.
Wasn't London burned to the ground at some stage?
It happened in AD 60 by the forces of Queen Boudica of the Iceni tribe from modern Norfolk, when she led a major revolt against Roman rule. The governor, Suetonius Paulinus, who was busy exterminating the Druids in North Wales, marched his troops south in an attempt to save London, but, seeing the size of Boudica's approaching army, decided he could not mount an adequate defence and evacuated the city instead. Not everyone managed to escape, though, and many were massacred.
What about the beautiful old architecture? Did you research that too?
I sure did. The major symbol of Roman rule was the Temple of the Imperial Cult. Emperor worship was administered by the Provincial Council, whose headquarters appear to have been in London by AD 100. A member of its staff, named Anancletus, buried his wife on Ludgate Hill around this time. Pagan worship flourished within the cosmopolitan city. A temple to the mysterious Eastern god Mithras was found at Bucklersbury House and is displayed nearby.
I quite like St. Paul's.
Traditionally, St. Paul's Cathedral stands on the site of a temple of Diana. Other significant buildings also began to appear in the late 1st century, at a time when the city was expanding rapidly. The Forum, a marketplace and basilica which housed the Law Courts complex at Leadenhall Market, was erected and then quickly replanned as the largest such complex north of the Alps. The Forum was much bigger than today's Trafalgar Square.
Who was in charge of all the town planning at the time?
Procurator Agricola. He encouraged the use of bathhouses and had a grand public suite made, which is now being excavated in Upper Thames Street. They were as much a social venue as a place to bathe. There was a smaller version at Cheapside, and in later centuries, private bathhouses were also built. Another popular attraction was the wooden amphitheatre, erected on the northwestern outskirts of the city. It's possible that gladiatorial shows were put on here, though lesser public sports, like bear baiting, may have been more regular.
I thought that happened mainly in the Colosseum in Rome, but I guess London being settled by the Romans explains their lust for blood.
By about AD 200, the administration of Britain was divided in two. York became the capital of Britannia Inferior and London of Britannia Superior. Around the same time, the city also acquired its famous walls, probably about 20 foot high.
Why did they build such high walls?
It was a protective measure which may have been due to civil war, initiated when Governor Claudius Albinus tried to claim the imperial crown in Rome.
Was paganism still predominant then?
Yes, but Christianity appears to have reached the province at an early date, and only a year after the religion became officially tolerated in the empire, London had its own bishop, Restitutus, who is known to have attended the Imperial Council of Arles.
You really delve deep. I think you'll do well on your tutorial paper. Good luck, David.
Thanks.
That is the end of section 3. You now have half a minute to check your answers.
Now turn to section 4. Section 4. You will hear part of a talk for tourism students about the London Eye, a modern tourist attraction in London. First, you have some time to look at questions 31 to 35. Now listen to the first part of the talk and answer questions 31 to 35.
Today, I want to focus on some of the major sites that attract tourists to cities, and I'm going to begin with the London Eye. This giant wheel has, in a very few years, become one of the major attractions of London, and thus in the world. It's both simple in concept and awesome in delivery. Its creators are husband and wife architects David Marks and Julia Barfield. It was on their kitchen table in South London in 1993 that the first drawings for the London Eye were made, as the couple, who usually worked directly for clients, were entering a competition, the brief of which was to design millennium landmarks for the capital. In fact, nobody won, and the whole idea was scrapped, but the couple remained convinced that their dream should be pursued. They started to piece the project together and were soon attracting the attention of the press. And it wasn't long before British Airways had started to show an interest and then became a partner. As the project unrolled, everyone involved began to realise the sheer scale of what they were undertaking. It would be the largest observation wheel ever built, and over 1,700 people from a total of 5 countries would play a part in its construction. Nearly every one of its many parts and techniques needed to be invented, simply because they had never existed before. Transportation of the components would be on a scale reminiscent of pyramid building. Bringing them in meant that large parts had to fit under the various bridges of the River Thames, so this had to be timed to coincide with tides along its length. And even when completed, the Eye continues to be huge in its requirements. A small army of people are employed to look after it, with 350 hours maintenance being required every week, and apparently strange demands, such as washing all its glass with nothing but distilled water having to be met. But the views the Eye affords across London make it all worthwhile, and it's easy to understand why the Eye has become one of London's chief tourist assets.
Now you have some time to look at questions 36 to 40. Now listen to the rest of the talk and answer questions 36 to 40.
So, how is that great wheel held up? How did it get there? The starting point was, of course, the ground, and while parts of the wheel itself were still being constructed in various countries, tension piles were being driven into the ground beside the River Thames. This was the first step, and once these were securely in place, a base cap was installed over them as a kind of lock, with 2 giant plinths pointing up onto which an A-frame was attached, like a giant letter. All this took many months and incredible effort, but meant that the spindle could be installed around which the great wheel would turn. Now the project really was in business, and the vast rim, with spokes like an outsized bicycle wheel, could be brought in. The passenger capsules were assembled and hung onto the rim, each one linked by mounting rings that would support eager viewers as they rose above London. And the last thing to be built is the first thing the visitor encounters, the boarding platform laid down underneath. The whole process employed thousands of people in total and was avidly watched by millions. How long the Eye will stay is uncertain, but any talk of dismantling it always meets with immediate protest.
That is the end of section 4. You now have half a minute to check your answer.